when you're a college student, you do all kinds of.
I love it.
Anything for a free ticket to get in, but they make you work.
Excellent.
Yep.
I love it. You didn't have a ticket for the Canadian elections, however, did you? Neither did Mr. Trump. But Mr. Carney has got to be happy with him, hasn't he, really? Because for all the things that he says about him, it's down to Mr. Trump that Mark Carney has been voted as Prime Minister in Canada, isn't it? Because the Liberals were dead and buried a few months ago, maybe.
They were done. Remember, we were hearing everything that said when Trudeau leaves, the one thing is for sure, there are going to be no more Liberals in that government. No more. There's no possible way. And then Trump opened his mouth, and away we go, and tried to make Canada into the 51st state, and now Carney really has developed a backbone and really sticking it to the U.S. of A.
He's so calm, and I love it.
He really is. But I can't believe that the man has never held office before.
Well,
he's a banker.
He was a banker because he ran Bank of Canada, then ran Bank of England.
Yeah.
So and went through Canada with the financial crisis and then COVID with the Bank of England. So I think he's got pretty decent credentials. We'll see. Time will tell.
A smart guy.
We are Canada strong.
We are Canada strong. We love. Who doesn't love Canada? We all love it.
We do. Absolutely. So meanwhile, we're getting up to the 100-day mark. The remaking of a nation was the headline that the BBC used.
Yeah, and I think that's the one way. That was a great way for them to put it, because the nation really has been rebuilt in the graven image of
Project 2025.
Yeah.
Well, he says it's not.
Which is what we talked about.
We know it is.
We talked about it a year ago, and they said, "Oh, no, that's just a book that came out." No, it's all been true, but this whole shock and awe approach has been pretty tangible, and everybody is kind of feeling it. But and the critics are saying that he's done irreparable harm to the country. He's overstepped his powers, and a lot of that is being pulled back right now thanks to the courts. A lot of courts.
So they're just about caught up.
Yeah, the courts, exactly. That's a good way to put it. The courts have actually caught up.
So people were saying originally, why are the courts not doing anything about this? Well, he was moving too fast for them.
Well, one thing that everybody needs to remember, and a lot of people already know this, is that an executive action is not permanent. It's not something that the next president can't overturn. So in other words, when you become president...
I can't. I wasn't born in the USA.
It doesn't matter. For this argument, we're making...
Maybe in the future.
Okay, when I become president, I'm going to sit in the chair and I'm going to look at everything Trump did, and I'm going to toss it out, or I'm going to keep it. I'm do one of those things. The minute the minute it goes before Congress and becomes a law, then you got an issue. But, Trump is, you got to love him for the way he's doing this, that he said, he took the bull by the horns and said, I'm going to do this, and he went ahead and did it and dared Democrats to kind of overturn the apple cart.
Well, it took them a few months to catch up as well, to be honest. We've only just heard from Biden, and we only just heard from Obama.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it took everybody. Everybody was kind of taking their time to get in touch and get this stuff done, but eventually everybody's going to catch up with the whole thing.
We've been hearing anecdotally from various people who've been to the US. Ignacio and Pedro, the Alicante lawyers, were in the studio last week, just back from California and New York, saying that generally on the ground there's a good Trump feeling. However, the polls are not saying that at the 100-day mark, are they?
No, not at all. The trolls, the trolls.
Yes, they're those as well.
The polls,
he's got a lot of trolls.
The polls are universally, and we know that we talk about the polls all the time on this show, but this is a big poll that we've seen. There are at least a dozen different organizations taking polls this week because of the 100-day anniversary. Yeah. But he's underwater on every single one of them, in meaning he's under 50%. People don't like the way he's handled anything except for the whole crisis at the border. The fact
immigration.
That the whole immigration issue is that the illegal crossings are down. What I heard this morning was 95%. Fewer people coming in over the border illegally.
I guess a lot of places are better than El Salvador prison.
Yeah.
You'd rather perhaps stay where you are. And that's it. It's the disincentive, isn't it? To stop people from doing that sort of thing. We're not saying though that how they go about it is always the right way. But these are the worst ratings in the first 100 days for 70 years for a U.S. president.
Yeah, there's nothing about
great record, that one.
I know. There's nothing There's nothing to pound your chest over this. There's virtually no good news in this.
Scary and chaotic were words which kept coming up.
Yeah, those words keep coming up, and it's interesting that the two lawyers walked away with that feeling.
I think they were sort of grassroots rather than the top lawyers that they were meeting. It was more about the Uber drivers and people that they were talking to, where they said that especially immigrants who were very pro-Trump because they wanted to keep their own job and not somebody else come and get it. I suppose we should point out that 82% of Republicans have said the word exciting in the polls.
The way this breaks down into Republicans, Democrats, and independents, among Democrats, they universally believe that he's taking the country straight to hell and that he's doing an awful job. You look at the independents lean very heavily toward that opinion. But on the Republican side, 82%, give or take a few, it depends on the poll, think he's doing a great job, and this is a great way to go, and that even if you're shipping people to El Salvador who should not be in that jail, it's the price you pay just for being close to someone who is a drug dealer or is a murderer or a thief or whatever. But I think that in this particular case, what we're really wanting to look at is the Republican side, and when those numbers start dropping, then you got a trend, because right now they think he's doing just this great. And I know they're members of my family, and I'm sure if I asked them, what they love is the fact that he's doing a lot of stuff that it's. You never know what he's going to do at any given time. It's exciting, it's new, it's fresh.
Okay. Meanwhile, though, he's not very happy.
Meanwhile, back in the Batcave.
He's not very happy, Robin. Trump is raging over low polling numbers, telling off Fox News and others while demanding investigations into the pollsters.
Oh, he's furious.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just...
Worst polls ever.
Worst polls ever. Yeah, it's his low opinion, low approval ratings, especially from Fox News. He says these people should be investigated for election fraud.
But I thought Fox were the big supporters of Trump.
They are big supporters of Trump.
They talk the thing about election fraud sometimes.
Does he know that there's no election going on right now? Should somebody tell him that about election fraud? That he said, add in the Fox News pollster while you're at it. So he said they are negative criminals who apologize to their subscribers and readers after I win elections big.
I just love that he writes in capitals.
He does.
On his Trump Truth Social.
Me like elections. Good.
Yeah. They are sick. 99.9% at the border. Best numbers ever. and truly the enemy of the people.
The enemy of the people.
Yeah.
Picking on everybody who doesn't like him as an enemy of the people. So, what a baby.
The UK and the EU are defying him with a new strategic partnership to boost trade and security. They're ganging up on him.
Well, I love this whole idea of the EU and the UK getting together going, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we trade? Why don't we have unlimited borders? Why don't we kind of get together and actually do that?
He doesn't like the EU at all, though, does he? I think he said the EU was set up to be against America.
Oh my God! And if he wants to continue with that nonsense, that's fine. But I think it's great. I think that the EU is being very positive and very proactive in building these relationships.
He can even build up a relationship for people after Brexit. Look,
I know Brexit. They pretty much said we're kicking the EU. We want nothing to do with the EU. We want to get them out of here. We don't want to be part of the EU. Wait a minute. Hey, pal. So. It's all going to work out.
Yeah, Defence and Security Pact on the way. They're meeting on Wednesday. Of course, we'll tell you more about that as it happens. Right, now, what's all this about Trump's golf club hosting a speaker who markets bleach as a health treatment?
So you remember that?
We do.
You remember that story during COVID?
We were more worried about that than your chlorinated chicken, I have to say.
I know, but he kept talking about injecting bleach.
Chlorine dioxide, is it?
Yeah. Saying, hey, bleach cleans things, doesn't? Why wouldn't you inject bleach in it?
But he did repeat it, didn't he, Trump?
Numerous times, to where the Clorox bleach company had to say, Do not
inject bleach.
Ever inject bleach.
All right. So, looking at the big stories that are around in America at the moment now, ICE, this is something we were talking about just before about the immigration issue, but apparently they're seeking out unaccompanied immigrant children to deport or prosecute. It looks like they're picking on the meek first.
Yeah, there are plenty. I don't know how you feel about this, but it seems that there are plenty of people who are arrears with the law, who have drug convictions or who have done one or number of things that are...
Who were specifically the ones that Trump wanted to target, the criminals. Yeah?
Exactly. He made a big deal out of getting all the criminals out of the country, and they have, including sending them to El Salvador or wherever he wants to send them. But now... You're right. He's targeting the very vulnerable ones.
A 2-year-old U.S. citizen and mother of a 1-year-old girl. That's just,
And, in the case of one of these kids, they caught a woman who was in the country illegally, and they said, well, we're going to send you back to, I think it was Venezuela. And she said, well, can I bring my daughter? And they said, take your daughter with you. And they sent him back to Venezuela. It turns out that's where she was from. So it wasn't as bad as what a lot of people are being sent to.
El Salvador in prison.
They're being sent to these countries where they have no relation to this country. And because I think a lot of the Trump administration views El Salvador, Venezuela, Honduras, all is kind of the same thing. Well, they speak Spanish, so we're going to send them back there. But, I think it's an unfortunate thing to be picking on these kids. And a lot of these kids are American-born, so they're what are called dreamers. So they, as long as they're in the country and they're born in the country, they are officially American citizens.
So how are they being sent back?
Well, they shouldn't be. But it's either that or they are separated from their parents,
right,
and their mother goes to Venezuela, and the child stays in either with family or friends or in an orphanage in whatever city they're in.
Yeah. Very
so
difficult.
it's a no-win situation.
Very difficult situation.
Yeah.
More than 100 migrants, meanwhile, were detained during a raid at a Colorado nightclub, right?
Yeah, they went in with guns blazing kind of at this nightclub. And apparently it wasn't a very nice nightclub. It wasn't something that had a club that had a big sign outside saying, hey, dancing tonight. It was kind of an obscure club, almost like a speakeasy with the windows blacked out and that sort of thing. So the ICE agents went in there in Colorado Springs, which is a very conservative small city. I know that they're very. I don't know what is going on in Colorado Springs to attract this sort of element, but they went into this club and they arrested 100 people. But they announced their presence. They said, "Hey, we're with the DEA, we're with ICE, and we're coming in." And they blocked all the exits, and they hauled quite a few people. And from what we're reading,
they were looking for Venezuelan gang members.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are bad operatives, and have long criminal records, and so they got those people off the street. So that's a good thing in this particular case.
Okay, and while we're on the subject, what's all this about hundreds of mugshots of arrested migrants across the White House lawn?
Oh, yeah, I have to tell you this. This is I included this story, but it really makes me unhappy because it's cheap. It's very low end, and what's happening? Excuse me. If you watch numerous shots, it doesn't matter whether it's in the UK or it's in the US. Every media service has a certain position on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
Okay. CBS is here, NBC is here, CNN.
That's if any of them are still allowed in.
Exactly. Most of them are out of business now. But as of this morning, they were in business. So what happens is they've got platforms that are elevated by about 2 feet. They're set up slightly elevated so when somebody walks behind the talent, you're not distracted. Mm-hmm. And the area on the White House lawn it's right off the lawn. It's called affectionately called Pebble Beach.
Right.
And what they do is they set up the talent, and that way they don't have to reset this every day. So when a reporter has to do a stand-up in front of the White House, this is the position. If you watch CNN, their position is identical every time. What Trump's done is they created 100 of these yard signs with the names of
They're like election posters.
They're like
actually,
election
aren't they?
posters.
Yeah.
They're big and flashy, and they say "arrested" on them.
So pictures of various people that have been
And
reported.
Exactly. It'll say some of them say murder on them, some of them say rape, distribution of fentanyl, and they put them right behind where the anchors are doing their stand-ups on the lawn of the White House. To me, and it's just my opinion, it's kind of cheap. And it's you can make your point in different ways, and it's not something that I think really serves anybody.
Meanwhile, universities in the U.S. finally finding a backbone, quote unquote, against Trump's assault on education. Well, they're just caught up like everybody else, really, I think.
Well, the only university that I know of that has completely collapsed with his threats is Columbia University, and maybe it's because of they had all those protests with the and the problems with Palestinian supporters and with being accused of being anti-Semitic, and so a lot of the not only Columbia but the rest of the Ivy League schools have had that problem that they're dealing with, but certainly, the more that these universities band together, the more that they have a voice in going through the courts and saying, "Look, it's not right that you do this," and because a university really should be a safe harbor for people to have as many different thoughts as they can. Because that used to be the case when I was in school. It was like you could pretty much say anything you want and not get in trouble.
It's that hotbed of education and learning and how to find your way in the world and what's sport.
And when you look back and you go, I can't believe I said those stupid things when I was 21
I didn't go to
years
university.
old.
I just say those things on air.
That's in life. Do you ever look back and you go listen to your air checks and you go, oh, my God.
Yep, still do.
All right.
So recently, of course, then it's people who have been staging protests for Palestine that have been seeing the wrath of the Trump administration. But something like 86 universities are now joining together. Is that right? That many?
Yeah. No. I've seen it's over. Did you say 86?
Is it more now? Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. It's over 200 right now that they have. They're banding together and going through the courts and trying to get a lot of these prohibitions, especially as it relates to grant money. I mean, they stopped the grant
money.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back. As
Take
far
away
as
somebody's
Harvey,
money.
you took $2 billion away from Harvard, and they go, now I can't do any research. Now I don't have as many grants. I can't bring in as many talented students. Yeah, that really hits the universities where they live. I guess Trump thought, we're just going to go to universities and tell them they can't do DEI hires anymore. They can't do anything that's anti-Semitic. They can't do anything that's pro-Palestine. It's a lot deeper than that, and they found out about it, and now universities are thank God banding together and letting them have it.
Okay, must be another thing for which you like Mr. Trump, because there are some things. He says that he'll eliminate income taxes, but it's not that easy, is it?
No, and I
wish
mean,
you were.
how dare you say that? Everybody's kind of against taxes. Nobody wants money taking out of their thing, but that's how we pay for our roads and how we have clean air and how we have clean water. But yet Trump now says in this gross litany of things that he just says off the top of his head to get people to like him, I think I'm going to do away with income taxes. That the tariffs that he's putting on right now are going to be so great, so effective, and we're going to get so much money coming in that people are not going to have to give up their income. This is not what economists believe from everything I've read, that to lose the government, first of all, collects $3 trillion a year in taxes. And
goes a long way as well, doesn't it?
It goes a long way. Yeah.
Used to reach to all four corners of the globe. Not so much anymore.
Not so much. We're collecting all that money from people
really
in their jobs, but
we
ain't giving it away. We're not giving it to the people who actually need money. But the fact is that the tariff rate now stands at 22.8%. The math does not add up, as one economist said. It's not even close. That the tariffs already imposed and scheduled to take effect will bring in just $170 billion in annual revenue. It's not nearly enough. So if anything happens, and if anybody makes a move toward not having income tax, it's going to be many, many years before that happens.
But it's pretty simple sums, isn't it? Increase tariffs so much that nobody has to pay income tax.
Yeah, it sounds simplistic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's another...
In Trump world, it works.
In Trump world, it's another thing where when you go out there and you say, you know what I'm thinking of doing? I'm going to cut taxes completely. You will have no taxes. No taxes on
Definitely
any.
get voted in.
Yeah. And he's not running for anything.
Yeah.
Well,
he thinks he is. He still thinks there is an election.
But it's but you're right. It's a matter of I think he's saying this just for effect to show, hey, I'm a man of the people. We shouldn't have to pay taxes.
America's biggest companies do not agree with this situation, do they? Because they say earnings this season, because of Trump's trade policies, are raising costs, leading customers to spend less on practically everything from airline tickets to burritos.
Yeah, and the cost of airline tickets is going down because fewer people are flying. And I find that I've scheduled a couple of flights this past week, and there are plenty of seats open on planes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it depends on where you fly, of course, but I'm finding that to be absolutely
You're on holiday
true.
again.
Look, you. I work hard for the money.
One day a week. I love it. Right, let's move on. Hey, you could have had some of this cash, couldn't you? U.S. Navy losing $60 million. They dropped a jet off an aircraft carrier. I mean, it does happen from time to time.
I don't know. Is there video to this?
I guess.
Oh, there must be. But apparently the Houthis were shooting missiles at this aircraft carrier, and I have to admit, a lot of times I used to watch videos of aircraft carriers, and I'd say, how do those planes stay on board? If there's a wind, if they don't get blown right off the top of this thing, and damned if it didn't happen. Apparently the aircraft carrier made a hard turn to avoid some missiles coming out.
I didn't realize it was actually, in action at the time.
Yeah. And the boat tilted just a little bit, and I guess they got hit with a wave, and this $60 million plane took a head.
And it was under tow, and the tow truck went as well. Luckily, the people that were towing managed to jump off before they went overboard.
Exactly, they were on tow on top of the on the deck of the ship. But it's like, oh my, and it went right overboard. Well, you got a lot of splaining to do, to lose a $60 million plane. So
F-18 overboard.
That's right.
We talked about Kirsty Noem's bag last week, and we have the perpetrators. Gosh, this is like Russia. They arrest people the next day for doing stuff.
I know.
It was them. We know it was.
I saw the picture, and the guy looked a lot like you. He did, because after that last crack about... No, they found these guys, but you're right. They found these guys awfully fast. And if they could find the guys that picked my pocket and stole my camera about a year ago, I'd be even happier about that. But yeah, they found out this guy named Bustamante Leiva and his the other guy who did who was working with him, Christian Rodrigo Montesino Sanzanat. I know I butchered that, but they picked up these two guys like within 48 hours, which is pretty amazing, because of all the, I imagine because of all the CCTV cameras that are all around D.C. But they got all their stuff back, all their money and that sort of thing. But with a minimal amount of damage, I guess these guys went out. They still, and everybody knows the story. I'm not going to go recant, reconfigure this story, but, they... one of these guys was picked up in a drugstore, and they had spent a little over $200 on one of her credit cards. So it was a very minimal amount of damage. So I don't know.
Should be okay.
It's pretty. But I'll tell you something. God bless the Secret Service and the FBI. Within 48 hours, they had these guys picked up in two different corners of the country.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's talk then about Trump's latest musings on Ukraine. He says that President Zelensky is ready to give up Crimea to Putin as part of a peace deal. Funny, because the last thing I heard Zelensky say was it's against the Constitution. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't do it.
I know. This is why I wanted to make this our final story, is because it's not a big U.S. story, but the fact that Trump is involved in this, and the fact that he believes strongly that it's just a deal away, even though it's not, and the fact that he says this is what Zelensky wants to do, and then we go to Zelensky and he goes, I never said that. I don't believe for a minute that this is.
At least he knows what he said. When you go to Trump and say, he goes, did I say that?
Yeah.
Did I say that?
But the helpful thing to me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but to me the helpful thing is that when he talks about Putin now, he's very unhappy. He talks about Putin. I'm not really happy with what he's doing, and
my friend in the Czech Republic said after that photo of the Pope's funeral of them sat on chairs. Do you remember? Iconic photo that. There was some good at the funeral. But there were some great memes like Zelensky saying to Trump, "Do you own a blue suit? Do you have to wear a blue suit? Do you own a black suit? Do you have to wear a blue suit?"
Did you see
the
meme of him falling asleep? Trump asleep? No. Oh, yeah. He fell asleep at the funeral.
Okay.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so basically our friend, who everybody knows because he was on air with us when the war started, Libor, basically said, "Is that orange fool finally woken up?"
Yeah.
He might be getting the idea that he's being played by Putin, which people have been telling him for weeks, right?
I know, yeah, and that's the only good news coming from this is part of the bad news is that North Korea is involved in this. They've been sending troops over there right now. Now they're having their pictures taken with the
the Ukrainians
Russians.
are fighting not just Russia, they're fighting China, Iran, and North Korea.
Yeah, and not getting any help from the EU, not getting help from the US.
Well, it's finance, and there's a big meeting this week. Hopefully, we'll see a bit more of a turnaround. But the sooner peace can come, the better. Really. And the Kremlin announcing that 72-hour ceasefire next weekend to mark the 80th anniversary of victory in the Second World War. But again, of course, the ceasefire at Easter really was just a name. It was just a word.
It was violated.
Just a word.
What did they say? It was violated. About 300 times?
Ridiculous. So we'll see. We'll talk in the next hour in our European headlines. Got some words from Zelensky, his response to that. But that's where we have to leave it. Our US correspondent.
All right. Any more shots?
All his own work this week, ladies and gentlemen. I was too busy on Spanish news this morning to help.
Oh, good Lord.
Excellent.
I'm exhausted.
Thank you very much.